guys, welcome back to another episode of Pure Evil MMA with your host Evil Eddie, trying to hit the top 100 list over on Apple iTunes. We're just at 130, and that's because we're giving you guys the realest news there is, the news that no other media wants to talk about, the news that everyone is scared of that's in the business, the news that people aren't really hearing, and when they do hear it, they don't want to say anything about it. And we've been doing that since it's almost a decade now, and we've interviewed multiple UFC champions, legends, but I really feel like today's show is going to be one of my most important shows, and you're going to find out why in just a second. Before we start and jump into everything, make sure to subscribe down below here on YouTube, youtube.com/Pure Evil MMA. Follow me on Twitter at evil_echo. That's EVIL_ECCO. And remember, without evil, there's no purity. So without any waiting, let's jump right into things. I'd like to introduce a couple of my guests here. So usually we'll have two tops. Right now we got 4 people on the podcast, as you guys can see right here next to me. We got Otha Jones, we got Charles Conwell, Isaiah Steen, and then of course we got Reed Cook joining us, and we got a lot to talk about here. I mean, guys, let me start with this. When was the first time you realized that the sport that you loved and you wanted to get into was maybe not all it was supposed to be?
Ooh, that's a tough. This is Reed starting off. I think it's whenever I went to a Showtime show that actually Isaiah Steen was fighting in. He was main event 20th anniversary show. I was actually repping at the time Calvin Henderson, his opponent, and me and Otha had been chattering back and forth with each other, and that's whenever I found out that, you know, how it works, how boxing actually works, how you actually get a show, how Showtime actually gets involved with your show.
And can you explain that a little bit about how this works? Because I feel like there's a lot of people that don't understand that. Before we jump into the fighters and everything, I think it's really important for you to clear this up to our listeners. And right now, I have everyone's records up. They can see everyone that's on the call. They can see photos, they can see the records, the last time they fought, which is definitely going to be a question. And so why don't you start with how this all really works?
Yeah. So how it worked at this show is Calvin was my client. I was looking for him a big fight. And I had a friend with Double R Boxing up in Nebraska who had a venue up there. And Tony Holden, who is Jake Paul's promoter, actually got involved and booked the day before we were there. So it was kind of like he booked the day before, so why should we have the show the next day? So I called him up and I was like, well, Steen and Henderson were supposed to fight, so why don't we knew Showtime was looking for a main event, why don't we call them and see what they're doing? So
and you're talking about Triller, the guy from Triller, correct?
Well, no, he's not from Triller. Actually, Showtime is Jake Paul's promoter now, and
the guy who used to work with Dana. Yes. All right. Okay. I got you.
So Showtime is actually Jake Paul's promoter. His other promoter, of course, is himself, MVP, and then of course Tony Holden is his promoter. Well, Tony Holden called up Marshall Kaufman, who had the date. So how it works is, to get a Showtime show, you need a date, which is a day like a Friday or Saturday. You need 4 boxers that are good, and you need to have a place or a venue that will be able to, you know, hold up to 2,000 people. So Marshall Kaufman had the date, but he didn't have a venue because the ceilings weren't large enough in the venue down in Florida. So we had the Nebraska venue. So we called Bella, who actually had a show there, we called him. So moved in the Showtime show, and then the actual fairgrounds paid Tony Holden a very desirable amount, around $150,000.
Now let me stop you. Let me stop you really quick here with Bella, because with all of my listeners and everyone knows that the Joe Rogan Bella debate about boxing and MMA, it's one of the most famous interviews out there. That's who you're referring to, right? That Bella.
Bella and Tony Holden are partners. They manage, they promote a bunch of fighters, including Isaiah Steen, who's on here right now, and also Charles Conwell. And you guys will, of course, hear about that here in a second. That's been a mess. But they basically, since they're working with Tony Holden together, Tony wanted that fight, so Lou gave up his female fight that he was going to put on there, and they took the Showtime show. Well, the reason they really did this is because the fairgrounds in Grand Island, Nebraska, paid Tony Holden $150,000 to hold the event there, and they got the gate. And then Showtime paid Tony $110,000. So now he's got $260,000. So that's what he has to put on a show. So he buys the date from Marshall Kaufman for, I think, $50,000 or whatever. So now he's got $160,000 to bring everybody in, to pay the fighters, to buy the generator, because I got this $9,000 generator, to have the hotel rooms. You have to buy the hotel rooms for Showtime, even though they're giving you money, to pay the venue, to pay the vendors, to pay everybody. And it ends up being around like $175,000 is what it costs. So, you know, he probably grossed around $80,000, and he didn't do anything except for he just had the date, you know, because I did everything with the matching the cards with Marshall Kaufman. And, you know, Isaiah Steen can tell you he was the main event of the card, and I'll let him talk about, you know, what happened actually at the event.
On a good day, on a good fight day, I just weigh in, stretch, and shadow box, warm up to get ready for the fight.
Yeah.
Staying focused for the fight. But on this one, I heard a lot of back and forth with my coach and Nick Waters, my manager. He wasn't my I was hearing like I wasn't supposed to be managed by him like a year. Ben was out the contract and he was still taking money.
Whoa. Hold on a second. He had you for a year and was taking the money, and you say that one more time for everybody.
Yeah, he was extending the contract.
He was extending the contract and saying that what?
That he was still my manager.
He was still your manager.
Yes.
And you were aware that he was still your manager, so you trusted him to get you the fights and everything.
Right.
Did anything go wrong?
No, he really wasn't his manager. His contract had ended at the March 2021, and here we were in 2022, at the end of 2022, and he still was
21.
No.
21, Luther. We're in 22 now.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we were at the end of 2021, and he still was proclaiming as the young man's man.
And now, how long does a contract usually last for?
We fulfilled a 5-year contract with McWaters.
Let me say something about that right quick, okay? First of all, David Potter is a manager, a boxing manager.
Okay.
The Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act, which was put in 1999 and then it was made a bill in 2000, okay, was made to protect the welfare of the boxers, all right? So what happens is the state commissioners, they actually report to the ABC, which is the Association of Boxing Commissioners, okay?
Let me pull up the Muhammad Ali Act for everybody to see.
They're pretty much, they do whatever they want. Every state does what they want, okay? But the governing body and the rules say that there are no restrictions placed on contracts that boxers agree to with promoters and managers. Okay. So it's necessary to enforce a national contract reform which would guarantee the safety of professional boxers and the public from unlawful contracts and enhance the integrity of the sport. Okay. So therefore, as you continue to read on, it says 1 year is the maximum that a manager or agent can have as a contract on an athlete, because they don't want it to be seen as a slave contract. If you have a 5-year contract with somebody who is your manager, that's a long time. You know, that's a long time. There's a lot of stuff that can happen. And the thing with these contracts is, these guys is, Isaiah can lose one fight and he can drop him and fire him and leave him on the streets. Or he can win 16 like he has, and he can keep him and extend him for COVID, which didn't even exist whenever he had this contract 5 years ago.
That's a big thing in boxing. You lose one fight, your career could be over. Now, let me read the Muhammad Ali Act for everybody. The Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act amends the Professional Boxing Safety Act of 1996 to direct the Association of Boxing Commission, the ABC, to develop and approve by a vote of at least a majority of its members state boxing commissioners guidelines for one, minimum contractual provisions that should be included in bout agreement and boxing contracts, and two, objective and consistent written criteria for the ratings of professional boxers. I just had to make that clear for the listeners.
Yeah. ESPN did an article about this a few years ago about this. Like, no one is enforcing the federal boxing laws. It's just allowed to exist as an exception to state laws. And, since 96, it just became clear that the states just do whatever they want to do. The Ali Act was supposed to change that. Everybody was there, the WBC, WBA, IBF, WO, they all took part in it. The law mandates when promoting a fight, a promoter's got to provide copies of agreements to all the boxers and state officials, and everybody gets to look at this kind of stuff, right?
Now, you guys all do that, correct? You guys pay close attention, or are the fighters more focused on the fight?
We want to, but we wasn't afforded that.
Right. That's why I kind of got with these guys is like, at the fight, Isaiah can say at the fight, he's getting ready to fight Calvin Henderson. Calvin's, I think, 14-0. I think Isaiah's 15-0. These guys are like both young, both hungry. I mean, Isaiah dislocated the bone from Calvin's shoulder during the fight. So Calvin was fighting with one arm for about 5 rounds. But that's how hard these guys are hitting there. This is a main event of a Showtime 20th anniversary show. And 5 minutes before he goes out, he's got DAVID MCWATER in his face talking about sign this, sign that, yelling at Otha, going crazy, and telling him basically he's only going to get half of his money.
Why? And
ask Isaiah. Ask him. Let him tell you.
I don't. Let me say something. I don't think that's fair. I feel like everyone listening to this on their way to work right now, or at the beach, or in a snowstorm, wherever they're at the boxing ring, I'm at the gym. They're sitting there and going, "This guy was just in a fight, fighting with his arm out of his socket. He just went through weight cutting. He just went through this event. And now you got somebody throwing papers in your face. This sounds like something from the 1920s to somebody like me."
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
You don't know if he's concussed. For something to be legal, if I'm in front of a judge, they want to make sure that I'm fully aware of what's going on before I sign anything.
Right. And this happens right before the fight. So imagine this. He's preparing for a fight, and right before the fight, his manager comes with him and starts arguing with his coach. This is before the main event of a major Showtime fight. He's arguing with him and arguing with Otha, and basically...
what did he say to Otha? What was he saying to you, Otha?
Tell your story, bro.
Well, what we were doing was, because Isaiah was focused on the fight. So Isaiah asked me, would it be okay if you asked McWaters to get the proper information? Some of the stuff that you were saying that people want to see, before the fight or after the fight or whatever.
And Dave has 50 plus fighters on it that he covers, correct? So you would think that, I trust this guy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, be beyond all the monotony and everything going on, this kid still stayed focused, still won the fight, and going in the fight, he knew in the back of his mind that I'm not gonna get all my money. You know what I mean? The fight was for $15,000. He took home like $6,800 or something like that.
Whoa. All right. So important. You guys are doing this so fucking perfect. So when people hear that, they're like, whoa, that's actually a good amount of money. No, it is not a good amount of money, because you have to pay the gym. You have to pay a whole bunch of people. So what do you think you end up with out of that? Maybe 2,000, 1,000 maybe?
Well, you got to, first of all, the guy was taking 30%. And he was taking 30%, and he gave him an ultimatum: either sign this contract, renewing your contract, or I'm going to take this money that I gave you for training camp, but now you got to pay it back, and on top of the 30% that I'm taking, if you're not going to sign. But if you sign, I'll only take 15%. So he wasn't willing to sign. So he took the full 30%, plus he took $3,500 or $3,000 out that he gave us he only gave us one training camp out of 17 fights. He only gave us money for one training camp. And that one training camp, he said we had to pay it. Well, Isaiah had to pay it back if he didn't resign. So, he went home with a small amount of money.
Isaiah, the one who's putting in all the work. Isaiah, the one who's making all the sacrifices. Isaiah, who has his future in the hands of other people that he's really hoping to trust. Isaiah, the one who, may only have 2 fights a year, and now he has to hand over this chunk of money.
One fight. He had one fight. And then before that, he had another fight, one fight. And so he was averaging the last 2 years of his contract. He was averaging 2 fights in 2 years. His contract consisted of 12 fights in 5 years. He only received 9 fights.
Now, anyone can look at the Tapology pages or research anything. It seems like there's a lot of cancellations that happen. Have you faced issues like cancellations or anything like that, false promises or?
Well, what happened was the Calvin Henderson fight. It was actually given to us 3 fights ago, and it was injury plagued, and it got put off a little bit.
Okay,
but it got put off twice actually. Twice the fight got put off. Once for Calvin hurting his hand, and once for Calvin tearing his retina.
So getting back to the situation where, after the fight, these papers are being handed off. Everyone's in a fuss. Otha, what happens then?
Well, then, of course, I got the fighter together. He stayed focused. And at that point, that happened. McWaters went after Charles, and started explaining to Charles. And
Charles, what was he saying to you? Do you remember? Because a lot of fighters usually, they're in such a fuzz.
What did he say?
Do you remember what he was saying to you in that moment?
What you mean? Like, what moment? Moment as far as what?
Exactly.
At Isaiah fight?
Yeah.
Oh, he was just coming up to me, just trying to, you know what I'm saying? Just telling me all about Otha, and it really wasn't nothing about boxing or nothing like that. It was really just him coming at me about stuff about Otha and stuff like that.
Stuff that you were not aware about prior to the fight, correct?
All I'm saying is he came to me, talked to stuff about Otha, talking about my coach towards me, just telling me different things about my coach and how he's this type of person, how he's that type of person, things like that.
Open up. So he's trying to get you to turn on Otha. Correct?
Basically, I guess, yeah.
And how did you feel about that? Because in that situation, your money's involved. I mean, people go on strike if they work in a restaurant and shit like this happens.
In the process of that situation, I wasn't even thinking about it. My brother had the biggest fight of his career. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I wasn't even trying to focus on that. This is my brother's biggest fight. I'm his biggest fan. So I'm trying to tune in and keep him calm and stay focused on the fight, because that's what, like, when he fights, basically I'm fighting. It's my brother. You know what I mean? So I'm just really trying to focus on the fight. It's the biggest fight of his career. I want to be there to help him. I want to be there to, you know what I'm saying, keep everything calm and keep everything right.
And I've talked to Valentina Shevchenko when she was in the UFC, and Antonina was in Lion Fight trying to get into the UFC, and she said, I was more nervous when my sister would fight than when I would fight. So I could understand that. I've heard fighters say that before. So then what happened from there, and how was this handled?
As far as that, when the fight went on, Isaiah ended up winning the fight and stuff like that. And after that, I really, you know what I'm saying, I just went back with my family and celebrated with Isaiah. I didn't really hear much from Big O after that day. You know what I mean? We were celebrating and, going on with what happened.
Well, actually, Tony Holden intervened and asked Dave to go ahead and, pull back and just wait till after the fight. If it wasn't for Tony, stepping in and almost begging Dave to leave these guys alone. Let them fight. This can be handled later. This is the wrong time. I mean, it was totally obnoxious, unprofessional. And it's amazing that Isaiah still even won.
Yeah, for him to come out and have that performance.
Tony Holden is a promoter for those.
Promoter out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. He's the person who promoted Tommy Morrison.
Exactly.
That's his client back in the day for like 8 years. He was his manager, and he promotes a couple heavyweights. And Luda Bella is like his best friend. They do vacations together. Their kids know each other. They're really good friends, and they do a lot of stuff in boxing. They have for a long time. They're tied in with time, really tight. Tony also does Top Rank Boxing out of Tulsa. So if you ever see anything in Oklahoma, he's doing it there. And he's also Jake Paul's promoter. If you ever see Jake Paul in a fight, you better believe Tony's involved in it. So Tony's kind of like the right-hand man to the guys at Showtime at Top Rank. He's been in the game for almost 40 years.
Okay, so what happens after all this? Once you guys are able to digest this, what is the amount of money that you actually get? And how do you feel about it? Because it's something that I really feel kind of disgusted about, and I really want to know how Otha being turned into an enemy made you feel. I mean, did Charles come up to you and be like, he was saying this and that about you, and how did that make you feel?
And I want to say something about that check, both of them for you. How long did it take for that check to clear?
Oh my God!
You gonna sell your soul to the devil?
Oh my God! 8 months. The check 6 months. The check took 6 months to clear.
So he didn't get paid at all for 6 months. That check didn't clear for 6 months. Calvin's on our end. It took 3.5 weeks for it to clear.
What are you supposed to do in your position when something like that happens? Because
what can you do? Like you said, it's not regulated. Nothing is regulated in boxing. What can you do?
So when you say nothing is regulated, what can they do to change that, to make it safer and to make sure that something like this doesn't happen? Because I'm sure that's not the first time this happens. I mean, I'm kind of speechless about this.
It happened to coincide on the weekend that the Associated Boxing Commission had their big meeting down in Orlando, Florida. So therefore, the head of the president of the ABC, which is Ryan, who actually runs Nebraska, where they were fighting at, he wasn't there. There was all kinds of crazy stuff that happened that weekend. Ronda Rousey's ex-coach, he was there. George, he got in a fight with 2 Puerto Rican dudes from up in there after the fight. Otha and DAVID MCWATER got into their thing. Me and Tony got into it. Freaking, it was just like nuts. And people were sitting in the front row, weren't supposed to sit in there, had to be removed. There's a fight in the audience right before the. I mean, it was crazy. The commissioner wasn't there, and whenever he got back, I told him, like, we haven't even got paid yet. He ended up, making a few calls and getting it all taken care of on our end, but I didn't know that on their end they hadn't got paid yet, that their check hadn't even cleared yet.
Now, what do you think is going on? Why do you think this is happening? Like, why is it not as smooth as it should be? What do you think is happening with this?
No one to speak up, man. You don't have a voice. You got to understand, these guys are coming from a place like Toledo, Ohio, where they don't have a voice until they get, in the top 10 or the top 5. No one knows who they are. No one really, no one really outside of the boxing community really knows what's going on. So who's to say that they're even telling the truth? There's no proof of this stuff. There's not really any. You can't really say this happened unless you have it on video. So it's like it's who do you believe type of thing. You can believe a multimillionaire who's got all these fighters, or are you going to believe a boxer from Toledo, Ohio? That's why it's not getting talked about. And it does get talked about every once in a while, but this is swept underneath the rug, Now, it's big money. There's a lot of money out here, man.
Reed,
TV's money.
You're a sports agent, right?
Yeah, I am. I am. a publicist. I sure am.
Why are you that instead of a manager?
I am a manager. I manage mainly MMA fighters, and then I have a couple of boxers that I do. Boxers are a lot of work being a management for a boxer, but mainly in boxing, I'm a publicist, so I'm the guy behind the scenes, like building up their reputations and who they are, and trying to give them a voice, like this right here. Trying to give them a platform that they can talk, and they can be, people can see that they're people, that they have everyday struggles, that they have bills to pay, and that. Wow, you make $15,000 for a fight, but really after you pay everybody, you got $6,000 in your pocket, and then bills are due. Because you had to wait 6 months for your check to clear. So this goes. I'm just tired of it, man. I'm at the level where I can make people listen now a little bit, and so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go on this podcast. I'm going to talk to people, and I'm going to start changing the game. When we got to, it's got to start somewhere.
Now I want to play something for everybody. Something that Paulie Malignaggi said.
We needed them, and I thought I pulled them out. I thought I outboxed the aggressor in the last rounds.
Paulie, assuming you don't get a rematch for a second.
You know I ain't getting a rematch, man. This is boxing. Boxing is full of shit, man. I used to love this sport. I used to love this sport, man. I cannot stand doing this. The only reason I do this is because it gives me a good payday. Boxing is full of shit.
Paulie,
what do you guys say to that?
Yeah, I believe that.
Now, I have one more clip to play, and this is from no other than Mike Tyson, and I think he puts it straightforward here for everybody. Because if you guys know about his career, obviously, the most famous boxer, he has one of the biggest voices, and I was blown away that he said this, and here's what he had to say.
Marcos Vegas for the Boxing Channel, standing here with the one and only Iron Mike Tyson, former undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. I'm good, thank you, Mike, and you're having this event here with your charity. Tell me a little bit about it and how you got involved.
Well, I don't know. No, this is what I have to say. They always had great fights. The fighters are no problem, but we have problems with the judges. The judges is what the problem is, okay? And so until we get some government function to oversee boxing, it's always going to be who they want to win is going to win, because this is the most corrupt sport and unorganized profession in the history of profession. And just the fact that the government won't oversee it is bad, and that's bad taste in itself. And that's the reason this is one of the fights that turn people away from boxing, because this is the only fight that people look forward to see Marquez and Pacquiao fight, really, because everything else is really...
Do you guys believe what Tyson said there?
Yeah.
And why is it not commissioned? He said it's not governed. Is that what he said there?
It's government to collect money. It's government to collect money. They collect money from the boxers. They collect money from the managers. They collect money from the seconds, which is the trainers. They collect money from everybody. Each state commission does. They charge the promoters for bonds, insurance, all this other stuff. They collect money every single fight. You better believe that. And every commission gets to set their rates. Like it's a $250 up in South Dakota versus $80 in Arkansas for your license. There's no like solid fees or anything like that. You may need blood work in Arkansas to box, but in Florida you need blood work, a CAT scan, an MRI, all this other stuff. And in California, you got to have 15 different medical tests. Okay, so it just depends where you're at, and it's there's no uniformity, and that's why it doesn't work, because everybody's not on the same page.
If I went to work and I work 40 hours this week, right? I'm expecting a certain amount. Why is it not like that in boxing? How is this happening?
Because you've got people who all they do their whole life is fight. They're not, college educated. They're not finance majors. They're not this. And they have these guys come from other businesses in the financial district who come in with their money and throw their money around. And they promise them the world, and they show them a TV set, and they put them on TV, and they tell them they're going to make them famous. And then maybe they buy them a car, or maybe they rent them an apartment, or give them a $25 a month stipend. And they take 33.3% of their money, So, it's if in any contract, if you can take 33.3% of someone's money, a third of their money for their service, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. The most I've ever charged a client is 20%. ever, and that was for everything.
Now,
33% is just nuts.
I would think it's illegal what happened. What the story that you guys were just telling me about with Charles, and you can clearly tell that he was upset. And it seems like there was a lot of corruption just in that one night. I've talked to people within BKFC that said, people were coming to the gym spying on them and this and that. And, I've heard so many stories, but when it comes down to fighter pay, you really got to stand up for that. Charles, how did that make you feel afterwards? You must lose motivation, right?
Well, let me say this before we switch to Charles. To finish about Isaiah, Isaiah expressed to you that, for a year, after almost a year, Isaiah's contract was over with for almost close to a year.
It was over with. Okay.
It was over with. So the manager was telling promoters that he's still the manager. And Isaiah was sending him letters and saying, look, you're not my manager. Just let me go ahead and negotiate my own deals. You're not my manager. My contract has been over with, for 5 years. So Isaiah had a fire about 3 years ago at his girlfriend's house. Oh, wow. And he lost his management contract. It was at the manager's house. It was at the girlfriend's house. And for probably 8 or 9 months, Isaiah asked for his contract.
16-0 record, Isaiah.
Yeah. He asked for his records. His records on file. And he totally ignored him. He wouldn't give up the information. When it was time to negotiate with other promoters, they said that one of the promoters said that he said that, he hadn't been in touch with Isaiah and he couldn't get a fight because he wasn't touching bases. So he was acting as his manager and faking like he wasn't talking to Isaiah. And all the while he was talking to Isaiah and his brother. We got phone records.
Wow.
All the while he was saying that, he was the manager and he wasn't able to catch us or he wasn't able to talk to us. But that was a load of bullshit because he had been talking to us. He had been delivering messages through his brother, Charles. And, we couldn't get a fight. And it was 2, maybe 3 incidents of us being able to get a fight. And because he was saying he was the manager and we wasn't in contact with him, we didn't get a fight.
Charles also 16-0.
Yeah.
Why? Like, why? How does, this doesn't make sense.
And that's why we're here right now, man, and talk about it. It don't make sense.
You guys are 16-0. Both of you guys are 16-0, and he's lying. And I've done a lot of research on this, and I've interviewed close to 600 or more fighters. Even ones that have come up from the regional scenes that I've followed all the way to the UFC and whatnot. And I've even seen Dana White stiff a lot of fighters out on money. But when it comes down to management and corruption, you're saying that he was promising fights, but was making excuses? Is that like a rumor I heard that you can...
No, he wasn't so much promising fights. He was just making sure that we didn't get any fights.
Why?
It's no coincidence that these guys haven't fought in almost a year. It's no coincidence. It's not a coincidence that their contract, Isaiah's contract, been up for a year.
It's saying on Tapology, career disclosed earnings $80,000. Is that true? For Charles.
Yeah, he was supposed to make more than that, though. That's the thing. It was on the Jake Paul fight. That was one fight.
One fight. All right. And
Yeah. He's a top 5 guy
knockout.
in the world. You know, Charles Conway was a top 5 guy in the world. He's an Olympian. I mean, he's the real deal. I mean, he's going through this. So if he goes through it, I mean, Teofimo Lopez just went through it. Dave McWater is both their agents.
Now
And
remember, hold on, let me say this.
$80,000 is not a lot of money. Like
let me say this real fast. Remember, when we first got on, we talked about the July 23rd incident where they had the argument.
Right.
Well, McWaters charged them. I'm gonna say it again. McWaters charged them a 3-month extension because they said they wasn't talking fluent enough between that time. In a derogatory sense, you know, to sway another agent from dealing with us.
Don't forget about him talking Charles into saying on ESPN that he was hurt when he actually wasn't hurt, and telling him to say that to a national TV audience and making him say that to him.
Well, actually, he didn't. What happened was he presented that to our team, and we told him, no, we don't want that. So when we told him no, we didn't want it, he went ahead and did it anyway. And then when the press release came out and it hit the papers, we like, what the fuck? And then he texts, we have the text, everything we saying, we have emails, texts, everything. He texted us and said they canceled the fight for COVID. That was a lie. They canceled the fight because he told them his hand was broke.
All right. So in this article from BoxingNews24.com, which is about Dave McWater, and it's titled "Dave McWater is a top boxing manager with over 50 fighters." I see Isaiah's name here at the bottom here, and let me get to that right here. Where did I just see that? Just saw that right here.
We have emails from promoters that's saying Dave was still claiming that he's the manager, which killed our deal with Trilla, with Showtime. It killed 3 deals because he kept saying that he was the manager, and we was refusing to accept that he was the manager because he wasn't.
Now, there's no law against that, though, is there?
Yeah, that's stealing.
It's stealing money.
Yes, that's stealing.
How do you? So
the dynamic is different. In MMA, an MMA manager would never get away with this stuff because they just call the fighters up and talk to the fighters. Here, the promoters don't talk to the fighters because there's only about 8 or 10 of them that are at the top level. Okay, and they're so high up that they don't talk to the people underneath them. So what they do is they have these managers. There's probably about 4 of them right now that are big time managers, and they go between these guys and they work with the promoters. Now that's illegal. Muhammad Ali says it is illegal for a manager and a promoter to work together. So therefore, let's say Tony Holden has a guy he's promoting. All right, it's illegal for him to then negotiate the purse with one of his managed fighters with him. That's illegal. Can't do that because they're working together. That's detriment to the fighter. But they do it every single day, every single Showtime event. I know it. Every single Top Rank event, they do it. It's done every single weekend to somebody. Now, the big guys that you see in the sport are the big guys in the sport you don't even see. All right, you don't even see them. Like Bob Arum, I mean, he's an ex-lawyer. He learned everything from Muhammad Ali. He's actually a really good dude. It's just he doesn't make any decisions at all. He doesn't make any decisions, none whatsoever. So it's things that have gone on in this business, people wouldn't even believe it.
So is it still is it still going on that he believes that he's under the management of this? And why couldn't you guys be like, no, you're not, and go with somebody else?
Because he's got one of the people that can talk to these promoters. So when he goes to Tony Holden and Lou DiBella and tells them, hey, here's the deal.
You're going to get blackballed.
Right. They're going to blackball him. That's exactly what happened. So then he's trying to make a piece of that deal. He's just trying to get a little piece of that deal because what the manager does is the manager sells him to a promoter. So when the promoter, let's say, signs Charles or signs Isaiah for $100,000 or whatever, he gets 30% of that. Okay, so he's going to get a percent of that, even if he's not his manager. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to get that last couple of months in where he can get a part of that deal. And then for the next 3 years, he's actually getting a part of that deal also. And that's the way it works in those contracts. So that's what people don't get is these contracts are not just 5-year contracts they're signing. They can be up to 10, 15 years because let's say he gets him a sponsorship deal with Everlast. Well, that sponsorship deal with Everlast continues to pay David McWater also a percentage of that. So that it's just, man, it's like it's got to stop. It should be the way the Muhammad Ali Act says. It should be 1-year contracts. If you don't like you, I can fire you. I'm the one who boxes. I'm the one who gets there and kills myself. That's it. Take the manager part of it out. Go to promoters and publicists, and man, let their coaches be their managers. Talk to their coaches.
Now, why isn't ESPN or people like that talking about this? Why is this so hush hush? This is like mafia type stuff.
Well, it is the mafia, man. I mean, look at the top organizations. Look at the top management organizations. You got Mac the Knife. Mac the Knife, MK Global. That stands for Mac the Knife. Who in the world calls their company Mac the Knife? I'm not going to say any more about them.
They actually boycotted the Irish media, and they put the end to the Irish events due to unfair coverage of the company back in 2017, 2018. This is a huge company that you were talking about, along with a couple of shootings that went down at a Dublin event. Really, if you look into it, if you guys that are listening do your own research with these little clues that we're giving you here, there is a whole underground network, and it is so unfair because it's these guys that are stepping in the ring, risking everything, sacrificing, and they're getting robbed. And this isn't just in boxing. This is in the UFC, but I don't think it's in any other sport. Is it? Like, this wouldn't be allowed in another sport.
No, there's no way. There's no way. Could you imagine in football if you were only giving the players 18% of the revenue share? There's no way. Like I said, that event made $270,000 that Isaiah was in. He got $15,000. Okay, so do the math. The revenue share is not there at all. The fighters get screwed. That's why Jake Paul is so important to this sport, and people hate on him.
White Knight.
That's why it's so important.
That's my White Knight. I keep bringing it up. He's like, it's not going to be Randy Couture. It's not going to be Ken Shamrock. They're trying to create these unions and stuff. It's going to be a YouTuber. Like,
let's talk about the chivalrous thing that Jake Paul did.
Okay.
That event that you just called, and Charles made $80,000, because Jake Paul was familiar with the bullshit that was going on with Charles and how he was taking his money and all that shit.
Oh, he knew.
Yeah, he knew. He gave Charles an extra $30,000.
Wow.
He gave him an extra $30,000 just because.
Dude, man, people think that he can't fight. That dude could fight too. He'll put you to sleep.
Let me keep you educated here. He gave Charles $30,000, right? And told him, you don't have to give this to nobody. This is for you. This is for you. Now, I mean, come on. Now, after that, when they learned how he was fighting for the boxers, they wanted us to fight on another show. Mysteriously, Charles or Isaiah never got to fight on the show, and Jake Paul wanted both of them to fight.
Wow. Now, here is what Jake Paul actually had to say about some of the corruption going on. Because I really do believe that he's going to be the White Knight here, and it surprises me, but it's true.
Jake, you never responded to the challenge.
Dana, I accepted every part of your challenge. I said I would fight Masvidal in MMA. Steroid test me whenever the fuck you want. It is 2 weeks after my fight, and I am a fat bitch. I don't do steroids, and I take it as a compliment because there's no other excuse to me knocking out all of your champions than this kid does steroids. Look at me. Look at that. A fat bitch. If you steroid test me, then I want to steroid test every one of your fighters. Ooh, You won't do it though, will you?
I use cocaine.
I'm in St. Bart's, one of the nicest beaches in the world. You're ruining my vacation. We were on a yacht party last night, Meek Mill, Drake, everybody, Mike Tyson going crazy. You have been caught with cocaine and hookers every other week.
I use cocaine.
And you think that, like, with all the money that you have, like billionaire or some shit, that you would get some fucking Botox, because your forehead looks like a motherfucking GPS Google map, like all the lines in it and shit.
I use cocaine.
And you say Masvidal is a pay-per-view superstar. Let's go to his last Instagram post. 5,000 likes or 10,000 likes or some shit. Do you realize that my mom, Pam, gets more likes than your pay-per-view superstars? Men lie, women lie, Dana White lies, numbers don't lie. Do you want to talk shit about my manager, who is the CFO of your company, that helped you sell it to Endeavor, $4 billion?
Guy that's standing in the middle, apparently that's his manager. And that guy used to be an accountant for me.
You're just a jealous, ugly fuck. You don't know what true happiness is. You're the definition of a fucking unhappy billionaire who thought that money was gonna make their lives better. I feel bad for you.
I use cocaine.
Long story short, you addressed nothing that I said. I accepted your challenge. I said I would fight MMA. I said that I would retire from boxing, and you avoided all of that shit. Hold on. Also, instant replay, there's a fucking UFO in the back of this video. Side note, but like fucking Joe Rogan, aliens, we're all fucked. It shows that you are in a corner. You're a dog in a corner trying to fight to save this whole company, and the embarrassment that I put you through, everybody sees it. And what you can't accept or love or appreciate is that I'm trying to change the sport forever. And you are one of the most selfish, capitalistic motherfuckers that I've ever seen. And everybody else needs you, Dana. I'm the only person that doesn't need you. And I don't give a fuck about you. But all these people, all your fighters, all of them, they can't say shit because you'll just bench them. You met your maker. I'm not going to stop. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen.
I use cocaine.
The bottom line, Dana, is that you won't have health care for your fighters because you don't give a fuck about them. And you're too much of a greedy bitch to pay your minimum fighter more than $12,000 for risking their lives, which is what a janitor makes. You need to pay them $50,000, Dana. Stop avoiding my points.
Summed up pretty clearly, right?
Yeah, something he said in there that like struck me. You know, they don't have a voice. You know, they don't have a voice. He's got a voice, and he's loud with it. So, you know, these guys right here, they have a chance to have a voice too. It's going to take people to just talk about it.
It's scary because it's your career. Like, if you've been training since you were 6, 7, 8, maybe even 16, 17, 18 years old, and you focused your life on this, you know, you got a kid, you know, you're living the bare minimum. You're barely getting by. You get paid. You got to pay everything out. And if you speak up and say something about it, you get blackballed. Like, it's just not fair. So you're saying that Jake actually came up to you guys and was trying to fix this situation. Is that what you guys were trying to say?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. But here's the thing. You know, we have, I'm not going to say any names, but you know who we're talking about, threatens to sue everybody. So if you act like you want to help us, he'll threaten to sue you.
And no one can match it. No one can go to court and battle it.
Yeah. Here's what I say. Sue me if you want to, bro. Because I talked to him and David McWater, sue me. I'm telling you right now, you're corrupt. You're a liar. You're a thief, and it's going to stop. I'm going to get you, bro. You're going to get up out of boxing and go back to hustling pizzas or whatever you did in New York City with your restaurants because you're fucking up boxing. He screwed up Teofimo Lopez to where he lost a fight. You know, he should have never lost that fight. He's messing with Steve. He's messing with Conwell. He's messing with so many different people's careers, man. And he thinks it's a game. It's not a fucking game, man. It's not a game.
Hey, Reed, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You know, Terrence Crawford case went public when, you know, he talked about Bob Arum. And they gave a description of, account of, you know, what Terrence gets for training camps. Terrence gets $50,000 for each training camp. I know for the last 3, he got $50,000. That's what he said. $50,000. Right. That's in the transcripts in the court battle. How the hell do you get charged $250,000 for a fucking training camp.
That's crazy. It's crazy. Teofimo Lopez got charged $250,000 for his training camp. Now here's the deal. Top Rank supposedly paid that $250,000.
No, they paid 250 and they paid 250 got charged to or something like that. Teofimo said it in the news. He was complaining. He said he fought Lomo. I think he said he got 1.7. This was in the news. He said he got 1.7 million, but he was complaining to the promoters that he only took 600,000 home.
So on Wednesday, January 12th, the current WBO welterweight champion filed a lawsuit against his former promoter in Nevada. The suit alleges racial bias by Top Rank founder and chairman Bob Arum. Michael Benson tweets out a statement from Bob Arum in response to Terrence Crawford's lawsuit against Top Rank. Bob Arum had to say, Bud Crawford's lawsuit against Top Rank is frivolous. His vile accusations of racism are reckless and indefensible. He knows it, and his lawyer knows it. I have spent my entire working life as a champion of black boxers, Latino boxers, and other boxers of color. I have no doubt the court will see Crawford's case for the malicious extortion attempt that it is.
Listen, man, everybody knows Bob Arum fixes fights. Okay, he's known for that. He's been raided by the FBI. He's had injunctions by the state gaming commissions. And, it took Don King standing up to him about Muhammad Ali at the end of his career. And he's a lawyer. I mean, people don't understand that. He's a Harvard-educated lawyer. He's got quick wit, that kind of stuff. And he founded and he's a CEO of Top Rank. But now he's kind of old and just kind of shuffles around. But back in the day, I mean, that's who he was, man. He played the game like Monopoly. You didn't play it like boxing, and that's what these guys are doing. They're playing it like something else.
But there's
boxing
also gang
around the world's getting ready to change, though, man. I'm telling you, it's getting ready to change.
This is so much scarier than I think people realize because there's actual gang warfare going on where innocent people are being killed if they open up their mouths. I'm talking about something that happened over at FM Boxing, I believe, where there was 2 Russians connected to the international drug cartel and tip-offs, and like this goes so deep. This goes so fucking deep, and there needs no one's saying anything. And finally, this generation is getting together. And you need people like Mike Tyson. You need to have people to make the sacrifices, to speak up. Because all of this shit, you can look up in the news. It's all there for you. But no one's talking about it. It's like no one cares. But yet, they'll watch your fight, but it's like they don't care. How do we get people to start caring about this? How do we get this to stop? People are being murdered over stuff like this.
Well, I want to say this. I want to toast my glass. In 2 days, Charles Conwell will have officially completed his contract with David McWaters, which will be April 21st. He has a bunch of frivolous extensions. But this contract is over with, and I'm not sure, but I don't think Charles will be signing with him again.
Yeah, I know Dean definitely is out of his contract, and looking forward to having somebody around him that will promote him fairly and give him some fights. I mean, these guys want to fight. They're in the gym every day.
We're talking about some of the biggest names in the sport that are screwing fighters.
Yeah. I mean, I just can't believe that Teofimo Lopez, that thing happened where he spent over $250,000 in the George Kamboza fight. It just ruined him, man. You could tell he wasn't the same fighter, in the fight. He went from beating Lomachenko and beating him down and being undefeated to getting his ass kicked in his first defense, and it's just, there's people trying to change boxing, like Trilla's coming in and they've tried to change it a little bit. And,
the Olympic Federation of Ireland It's even saying, like, unless changes are made, there will be serious consequences. That was back in 2020 in the Olympics.
Right.
Same thing with USA Boxing. Otha can tell you all about USA Boxing.
Oh yeah.
Let's hear it.
That's the one thing about me, man. I'm a fighter. I'm a fight. If I believe that I'm right, I'm gonna fight. You know what I mean? And you know, I gave up a pretty lucrative job because, you know, I wouldn't adhere to the bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, these are I raised these guys since they were 13 and 14 years old.
Oh wow, really?
Oh my God. These guys went half their high school year living at my house. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I think Reed told me he had a conversation with Dave, and Dave told him that I really didn't raise those guys. It's not really like that.
Oh.
It's bullshit.
This is going back to the shit talking after the fight. Okay. All right.
Yeah. I mean, this shit is unreal. You know,
why do you think he would
put
say
it like
that?
this? Evil. Put it like this.
Okay.
In 5 years, accumulatively, Isaiah Steen had made over $30,000 in 5 fucking years. Not to mention Charles is the least paid Olympian, you know, with tangible weight classes. You know, he's the least paid Olympian in the sport of boxing right now.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. It's going to change, though. All you promoters out there listening, holler at me.
How do you prevent this from happening again? Can you prevent this from happening again? Because this seems like it's going on at the highest of highest.
Well, as long as no one hear what's going on, everyone will ignorantly go to these guys. But if we work together and we just tell our story, we don't lie on anybody. We just tell our story. If we tell our story, then some people might not go that way because, you know, of our situation.
Now, do you think that with Jake doing what he's doing, do you think that may be the change that's needed, or do you think people are not taking that as serious?
Well, no, the change has to come when these boxers and fighters grow some balls and don't let these promoters.
Everyone want a headline, but they got nothing to say, right?
Yeah, you got, man, you can't go to a revolution without being ready to die.
And people will cheer for that. People will cheer for the person that stands up. And 3 years ago, people hated Jake and Logan. Right now, I call Jake the White Knight because he's doing what former champions in the UFC couldn't do.
Right. But you know, but again, you know, for Charles not to be able to fight, like, you know, I mean, there's no reason why that kid hadn't fought yet. And even now, like, he's still not getting his money.
If he fought, if he booked a fight, would he get in trouble?
By who? That's the thing. They've got these guys believing that they're going to get in trouble. They're not going to get in trouble. Who's the trouble police going to come along? No. The ABC, I've already spoke to them about it. They're great. They've already said they'll stand behind these fighters. They'll stand behind Charles. They'll stand behind Steen. They'll stand behind them. You know, they're not going to suspend them in the states that they fight in. See, that's the thing. The states that they fight in, they suspend them in those states, and therefore the ABC has to back that to suspend them in the country. They're not going to suspend them. The ABC's not going to. They've already told me they're not going to.
Well, they're familiar with the contracts. We sent them the contracts and the stuff that they're doing, and they're appalled by it.
Yeah, they said that this contract's about as good as some toilet paper to wipe your ass with. I mean, these contracts are illegal. So, I mean, you know what, man? It's going to take somebody going to the FCC, which is like the people that actually oversee this thing, and whistleblowing, and it's going to take somebody to go down one of these routes, and a bunch of people are going to go to jail, you know, and that sucks because it just holds up boxing again, and a new crop of people will come up and try to take advantage of boxing again. But in reality, it's taught to them since they were kids, man. I mean, you can have a kid go out there and fight his heart out and fight somebody that's got international experience and knock this dude down 2 times and lose a boxing match in the amateurs and get knocked out of the national tournament just because he doesn't have international experience or whatever. It happened to Floyd Mayweather. It happened to freaking Roy Jones. It happened to everybody. It's just part of the sport. You know it. You just got to pick yourself up, dust off, and keep going and hope that somebody will pay you. That's what it is.
How do you get a government function to oversee boxing?
the
2022.
Senate passed a law. It's called the Muhammad Ali Act. It's an act. It's actually a law. I mean, it's passed by Congress. So the FCC is supposed to oversee it. You know, somebody's got to reach out to the FCC who's got knowledge of all this, and they've got to go on record, and they've got to show everything, and they got to be able to prove everything. It'd be a huge case. It would take years to do it, and by that time, those people will be retired, and there'll be a whole new crop of people into it.
You know, only reason why we're so adamant about what we're doing as far as speaking up, first of all, those are fighters and they can tell their business. That's their business. They can tell what the fuck they want to tell. It's their business. You know, as far as me as an ex-employee, you know, I'm not worried again because we have this guy with several different phone conversations with several different people, you know, bashing us, bashing Charles, bashing Isaiah, bashing me. You know, I mean, we're not worried. Bring it on. We can't wait.
Do you think there's money laundering going on?
Of course.
You think there's
money? Overseas for sure. Definitely.
No doubt.
I mean, you get a promoter who's got. Here's how boxing works too. Let me tell you something about boxing too. If you're a promoter, like a small time promoter, like say in Fayetteville, Arkansas, like where I'm at, if you're a small time promoter, the only way you're going to be able to put on any boxing matches is if you have paid fights. This is the only sport where you can do this as a professional. Okay? You can be a professional boxer and call up a promoter and say, hey, I'll pay for my opponent. I'll pay my own purse. I'll pay my own stuff. And I'll pay you what's called a slot fee of $500 if you put me on your card. And so this person calls up. Let's just say I do it. Say me and Otha want to fight next weekend.
Okay.
So I call up promoters and I say, hey, I'm going to pay you $500 for the boxing slot. Me and Otha are going to fight at 190 pounds or whatever. And they're like, okay, we have our licenses. We go in there. I pay for Otha's flights and everything. I pay for all that stuff because, you know, whatever. And I come in and Otha knocks me out or whatever. Okay, well, I'll lose my money. Okay.
Would he knock you out, or do you think you got a good fight in there?
Otha's tough, dude. Yeah. It's tough, dude. Did I take Otha down though? I'm an MMA fighter, bro, so I'll take Otha down quick. But he can wrestle too, though. He's picking a state wrestler too. I forgot that dude. Otha be hard to handle. That's my best bud, dude. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but it'd be a hell of a fight. I never want to do that with my friends, man. But anyway,
now,
say I beat him and I move on, and I continue to do this. So I continue to do this at different promoters across the country, and now I'm 15-0, and I've bought every one of my fights. Okay. I'm 15-0. I'm ranked like number 20 in the world, and I ain't never fought anybody ever. Okay, and I go in there and I get murdered. All right, by somebody who's real for $100,000 or whatever. That's also a hustle of the sport that athletes are in.
Meat wagon.
Yeah, it's crazy, and you know what? And the guys who can actually fight, they have to do it too. You know why? Because they can't get any fights otherwise. Because all the undercard slots are sold now. That's the way they are. They're sold. You know, I'm a matchmaker. I know how it works. I mean, you have to pay for your show. If you have go ahead.
So, you know, when I go to a regional show, right? I was just at CES MMA in at the Connecticut Convention Center.
That's crazy at the end of that.
And you know, at the very end, after the main event, there was a post-main event that went down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, the fight was called off. The fans started throwing bottles inside the cage, going crazy. Everyone was trying to get him to calm down. I mean, and it's kind of crazy when I was sitting there looking at it as a gonzo journalist, I'm going, I can feel and understand the anger because this guy sold the most tickets to fill these seats here, to get profit and revenue. They make these fighters go out there and sell tickets for them. You got to sell like a certain amount just to get on a card, and then they'll stick you. Even Bellator will do this.
Bellator's they started that in MMA. They started that you know, if you want to be on our local card, you have to sell a certain amount of tickets, and if you don't, then we charge you for those tickets. That used to be their whole business model.
And I've been at these shows, and I've talked to these fighters. And it's absolutely unbelievable because you're sitting there and it's really corrupt. And you would think in 2022, especially with boxing being so far ahead than MMA, I mean, that all of this would have been died down when the mafia was, shaking hands back in the 50s and 60s and whatnot. I mean, I've watched interviews, like I went down rabbit holes of fighters coming out and saying, even Sammy the Bull just being like, yeah, boxing was like the number one freaking sport that we would fix fights in and we would make money. Now, the U.S. Treasury, they even told Primetime that they've provided materials to support, other countries like, Russia, and tying into the international drug cartel. It goes this deep still. It goes this deep still. And when people look at this and they see this interview and they're like, oh, he's crying because he didn't get his full amount. No, that's not the story here. This has so many layers to it that you can do. All the information is out there. It's all out there. Yeah. There have been people.
You can read about it. Here's one of the things. If you're in a sport where you can fix fights and go to prison, Dave Feldman, who owns BKFC with Triller now, his brother's name is Damon Feldman. He owns Celebrity Boxing. You've seen it. It's on right now. I mean, it's starting to blow up.
I know a couple guys from over there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Damon Feldman got busted for fixing fights and went to prison for that same show.
I had one of those fighters on my show.
He's right back to freaking promoting them again.
Now, Slap for Cash, who was on his most famous video was with Logan Paul. The slap that changed my life. And this is what got Logan into, starting to do boxing and this and that. And, I think me and you were even talking about, like, slap boxing is coming in now and this and that. But he was saying celebrity boxing, it's fixed. And they like, he told me straight up on the podcast. And I was just blown away at this. Yeah. And I have one of the fighters coming on soon. I have Trap Gambino coming on soon, and I'm going to try to get him to admit to that because that's illegal. I mean, then I should be able to go bet $1,000 on the fight. I'm going to know the outcome of the fight already, right? Like,
yeah. Well, how about this? Reed, tell him what McWaters told you that he was giving me every year.
You talking about money wise?
Yeah, money.
Yeah, he said he had given you a total of $250,000 is what he said.
No, what did he tell you every year?
Like as far as like salary wise?
No, he told you that he had invested $100,000 a year in me.
Right. But he said a total. He can't do math. He said a total of $250,000 is what he put into him. He's like $100,000 a year is what this guy's been taking me for. And not doing anything. And I'm thinking, dude, he got you Teofimo Lopez. Like, you wouldn't have Teofimo if it wasn't for him. I mean, like, that whole situation's another conversation. But
right,
he gives him his kids, basically, Charles and Isaiah. And then to go on, he gave him 15 other fighters that are all successful. He built his organization for him, and that's
the thanks I get. That's the thanks I get. Now I sent Reed my employment paperwork. That guy did not give me 100,000, nor did he give me 200,000. He started me out in poverty.
Yeah,
I started with 23,000 in 2017. 23,000. But I got a raise every time somebody came into the organization. So the first year was 23,000. Second year is 30,000. Fourth year is about 37,000. And then I got fired in the middle of the year.
After Isaiah Steen fight, right?
After Isaiah Steen fight, I got fired, and and I had made 28,000 that year, and that was in July. Now, mind you, these numbers that I just quoted to you, I have 5 little kids I got to take care of. Not to mention, I paid Isaiah 17-1. Charles is six. I mean, I'm sorry. Isaiah is 17-0, and Charles is 16-0. I paid for every fucking fight or training camp they had, except for 2. And the 2 times I got help was from Tony Holden. But I paid with that little bitty money and using fundraisers and doing stuff like that. I paid for all of their training camps. I didn't get any help from anybody, promoters, managers, or nothing. Now, how can somebody making poverty and these guys come into training camp, and they've been in training camp for 5 fucking years. They may go home a week or 2, and they're right back in training camp. And we hadn't had no help. But he's telling people that he's giving me all this money. He ain't gave me no money.
Yep, he hasn't. Here's the thing also is they signed, and you can look it up on their website, on Lou DiBella's website. It used to be right on there. They signed with Lou DiBella the same time, Charles and Isaiah. Why? They signed the same day and everything. Yet Isaiah's contract was really up this year in April for his promotional contract. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, Charles is extended and his rankings still stay up, even though he hasn't fought in almost a year. So, that's another thing is with these rankings, man. You've got the guy who fought Isaiah in his last fight, Calvin Henderson, is fighting for the WBA World Championship of the world. He's fighting the number 1 guy, and he's ranked number 10. And Isaiah's not even ranked in that organization. I mean, how's that possible? He beat Calvin, on a Showtime main event. Well, I'll tell you why. Because he'll take the fight. Because Calvin will take the fight with that guy. So therefore, the rankings committees will bump him up to where he's number 10 or number 9 in the world, to where he can actually fight the guy who's number 1.
July 23rd, beating him by decision, unanimous decision. Showtime Boxing, New Generation.
Yeah. And the Calvin was one of my guys. I mean, that's how I was introduced to these guys. Calvin was the toughest dude I'd ever seen ever, and work ethic unbelievable. And then he got up the weigh-ins. I remember that the weigh-ins, they got up and they flexed, and it was like, holy shit, who is this guy?
Let's take a look
looking at Isaiah, I'm like, because I know,
he put the first loss on his record.
Yeah, and I know Calvin. Calvin's in the gym 16 hours a day. I mean, he's in the gym, no shit. And to come out and then Steen be like, and then handle him at that after what happened, Steen's the real deal. Steen's the real deal. People are sleeping on him. And about 2 years from now, after this podcast is over, man, he'll be a world champion, and you'll look back at this and say, man,
why is Kelvin getting the spotlight instead?
Because Calvin would take the fight, because he doesn't have a manager who's overseeing his career, who's holding him back. I was his manager for over a year and a half, and I decided to go over and work with Steen, and told Calvin about it, told him what was going on. He said no problem, and just went my way that way. And Calvin just continued to do the right things and continue to take good advice from me and other people and listen to people that are involved with him. And he did the right thing. He didn't sell out to a promoter. We didn't take, a 15-year deal or a 10-year deal. We took a little small deal with Marshall Kaufman, and Marshall Kaufman knew that we could fight him wherever we wanted to fight him. And another thing these guys could do is they could fight out of their contract. All they do is just send him his freaking 15%. Send him a check for $600 or $1,000 or whatever. That's what I do. If I have clients that have promoters or something like that, and they have a percentage deal, we just fight them outside of there, make sure they win their fights, and there's never any problems. People are just afraid to do it.
What is Charles and Isaiah supposed to do from here? And is this going to leave a mark on their career?
Man, ain't nothing they can do to hold us back.
I mean, you got the product. Undefeated.
When you got the product, ain't nothing they can do to hold us back. Only thing holding us back is time. Now, we're celebrating April 21st. That's the pinnacle for Isaiah Steen's promotional, and the pinnacle for Charles Conwell's managerial. So, we're in a good place right now, just, time. But, the backlash of those guys, what we call hating on us, so we don't get any fights, that shit over with too.
Where do you think this hate comes from? Do you think this is a personal thing, or do you think this happens to a lot of other boxers out there?
It's business. We not re-signing with him. Think about it. Isaiah didn't re-sign with this manager, and his brother is definitely not re-signing. And now comes all the problems. It was all good 2 years ago.
Does this go to court? Like, because this is affecting lives.
Not yet.
Not yet. But you have
a lot of threats will be made. But like I said, whenever I asked him the question, how many of these things have you actually litigated? He didn't even know what the word litigated meant. So if you don't know what the word litigation means, and you're talking about suing people, you're blowing smoke up my ass. You better have gone to court and litigated some cases if you're going to threaten to sue somebody.
You gotta feel bad for the fighters who are doing so much just to try to make everyone else happy, and they get the short end of the stick. And then what happens when they have nothing left and they can't box anymore? They have to figure life out all over again, 20 years behind everyone else, and it's so unfair.
Evil, let me ask you this. A simple question, Evil. How would you feel if this young man did this to you or one of your family members?
Same way that how would I deal with it? I mean, it would definitely frustrate me because you almost feel powerless in a way, and it almost makes you want to lash out, which would make you look like
that's right.
Unprofessional. But at the same time, if you get a group of guys together that are going through the same thing, and right now it's the perfect time where things are spiraling, information is coming out, fear, the gate of fear, the drawbridge is coming down, and we're about to get into that castle.
They're still scared. They're still scared.
There's some of them that are still scared, but there's a lot of us out here that are on the front lines. We're looking at that castle, and that drawbridge is about to come down, and big things are about to change. And you got to give a lot of respect to people like you, Reed, Isaiah, everyone.
Well, McWaters made sure we didn't have anything. We don't got shit. Isaiah, again, having accumulatively made $30,000 in 5 years. Conwell, I mean, come on. Conwell is the head of his family. How long you think, that kind of money after taxes is going to last, and you have a whole family to take care of? He's the leader of his family. So how do you think after a year that money will last? I mean, we're in poverty. I mean, he's threatening to sue me. We're going through. How you gonna sue me? I ain't got shit. You made sure I didn't have shit. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't get it.
As fans,
you doing it for clout.
So
what you suing me for? If you sue somebody, you're suing them with intentions to get money. I don't got no money. You made sure we didn't have none. You kept us in poverty. So I mean, that alone right there tells you the whole thing is frivolous.
The money is there, though. The money that is owed to you is there.
Oh, it's there.
No. Hey, let me ask you this, Evil. Are you familiar with the Stockholm Syndrome?
Of course.
Okay. Now, Charles is a very intelligent young man. McWater said he's the classic case of Stockholm Syndrome. He said he's a part of a cult and that his mind is being programmed. This guy has a mother and father. And mind you, they're still together. So, I mean, he has good role models in his life. So for him to say that, it's terrible. It's just degrading. He's saying that he's so dumb that, he's going through Stockholm Syndrome.
He's being held captive.
Yeah. But he's also
forming a like a bond with his captor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, for a
I'm the
year, Charles
chapter.
Conwell was followed around by a reporter from the Atlantic magazine
In an
from Jacob.
abusive relationship. Like, he was followed around?
Yeah, well, they came to the gym, they did interviews, and he wrote a huge article for the Atlantic. You know, the Atlantic's a very respectable magazine. And basically, he did an article on Charles. And don't you think that if Charles was some dummy or something like that, or he didn't have his head together, or if he had Stockholm syndrome, that this guy from the Atlantic who followed him around wouldn't have said something about that? You know, nothing like that was said. You know, Charles. You know what most people don't know about Charles is that Charles actually killed someone in the ring. You know, of course, I wouldn't say killed, but the man died whenever he got hit by Charles. He died, I think, 6 days later. You know, so he's been through everything in the ring that you can go through in boxing, except for a loss. You know, so this man's
Charles phone went dead.
Yeah, this man's been through so much in his career, and they're still trying to screw him. You know, it's like, give him his money, let him do his thing, and enjoy his life, and put on some huge fights. Because in reality, he's the number one guy in that division. I mean, he smokes people. I mean, nobody wants to fight him. He's amazing.
Have you guys talked to some of his other fighters? Are they going through some of the same things?
Man, yeah, almost every. I've had a conversation with a dozen of them who hate him and who were told one thing and then sold this dream and then it just didn't come through. He shells fighters, man. If they don't,
the biggest thing he does is he keeps these extensions going on. We have Janelson Figueroa. Janelson Figueroa was out of his contract, and his dad, cries and moans to me that McWaters is. He ran. He told him he had a 5-month extension. After that went up, then he tried some more shit. You know what I mean? I mean, it's ridiculous. Khalil Cole.
Pat Coast.
Yeah, Khalil Cole. You know, I mean, I can't really reveal what is going on because they're taking legal actions as well. I'm assuming, but yeah, it's a real bad situation. It's almost worse than Charles. You know what I mean? It's 2 times more illegal than Charles. Illegal, like you can go to jail type shit.
Now, and I think Charles are brothers. I mean, if you got they have different last names, but these guys are brothers. So these are happy-go-lucky guys who've been dedicated their lives to this. They just want to fight on the same cards together and do this thing together, and this has separated them. This drama has separated them from promoters and separated them from management. And it wasn't supposed to be like this. It was sold to them in the amateurs a different way. And it didn't turn out that way. And I don't know why greed is such a huge thing in life, but man, there's enough money for everybody to eat. Why don't everybody just get a little piece to eat, Now,
when you're signed to Showtime, just like the UFC is signed with ESPN.
Not signed to Showtime. So people don't understand. Showtime is an independent network that gives promoters money to put on fights. So Showtime will pay $110,000 for a Friday night fight, for Friday Night Lights, fight, the new generation. And they'll pay some promoter like Tony Holden or Demetrius Salidas is another one that's a big promoter with them. And they'll pay him $110,000, and then he's got to go out and find the venue and find the fighters and all this. And they only trust about 8 people to do this around the country. So that's what you'll see with that. And then Showtime also does the Showtime fights on Saturday. Now, those are done by the big-time promoters like Golden Boy or, Top Rank or whatever, or Eddie Hearn. And they all agree upon what they're going to pay. Showtime pays them for the broadcasting rights. And then in return, they get, a percentage of the pay-per-view rights. It's usually around, 20% of the pay-per-view rights. So, DAZN's another player. They do pay-per-view rights only. And then you got, probably the smartest people in the game right now is Fight TV because everybody pays them to put the stuff on there.
FITE. FITE.
Yeah, FITE.
I had a company, FIGHT.TV, try to sign me, and I got all excited. I was like, wait, hold on, wrong
the guy from Mexico. Yeah, he's a pretty cool dude, though.
Yeah.
He's a good dude. He's trying to build it. And that's, I can't hate him for that hustle. He's trying give a platform that someone else can be seen on. And that's too is a big problem. There's not a lot of platforms you can be seen, man.
Here's what I'm trying to say here, though. Showtime, the UFC, they're promised a certain amount of money. They have, all of these deals set up, all of these commercials. In the main event, before you're going in there, you're sick to your stomach, you got to hear about the new Reebok shoe coming out, the new movie coming out. And the fighters aren't seeing any of that money, but it's promised to the guys who are not fighting. Even if you buy merchandise from the UFC, the money doesn't go there. If I buy a pay-per-view, the fighters don't get much of that money. It's just so corrupt right now. It's so unfair. I thank you guys so much for speaking up about this. It's got to be so frustrating to see. It's got to be absolutely so frustrating to see all of these fighters being taken advantage of. And now you're seeing more and more people break out and talk about it. But when there's a promised certain amount of money on the table, I think it should be illegal. I think that if a fighter is screwed out of money and he has a contract that is promised this amount, he should receive that. There should be no reason for that fighter to not receive that.
I agree.
It's almost like you guys are telling me they're making it up on the spot and then trying to cause like a whole fuss. It sounds very unprofessional. And after all these years,
it's premeditated, but when
calculated.
But when you get there, then that's how it's presented. That's like July 23rd. That's how all hell broke loose, because we had no idea that those kind of deductions were going to be taken out. We just wanted to do good business. And, I sent him a text and I told him, I said, Isaiah just wanted, I forgot what exact document it was. And the document was, letting him know, what was being, an itemized statement. And, and that's what triggered him to go off. He went bananas after I asked that for Isaiah. He went bananas. He just went crazy. And that's where the whole argument started, only because the kid asked, to see what was going on, because he felt he was going to get cheated. And sure as shit, after the fight, when it was time to get paid, he only got $6,800 out of $15,000.
What do you wish to come out of this?
I wish, first of all, if not being selfish or being self-preserved, I would like the world to know and be educated on guys like this. This is terrible. Like, he's trying to ruin those guys' life. But here's the sad part about it. We're from Toledo, Ohio. This is called the mud. Cleveland, Toledo. So we're used to, living in
I saw
poverty.
some videos of places in that area that blew me away. I'm from New Haven, Connecticut, the third most dangerous city in America. And the videos I saw from where you guys are from, I can't even, blew me away. Absolutely blew me away.
And, it's a manager's business to worry about the fighters' development. It's their business. You have managers just don't give a fuck. They act like they do, but they really don't. And this is a sad case right here that we're in.
Should you guys be able to bring like a lawyer in for like when you sign a contract? Isn't it like a legal document? Like,
yeah, but when you create a systemic racism, a systemic system, that you're making sure we're broke. So, we can't afford lawyers. Like,
keep
our
you
hands
hungry.
are tied. We can't afford lawyers. We just have to sit back and wait our time. And
then whenever you sign a contract, you sign it and you think you're signing it in, let's say, Ohio or whatever. There's a clause in there that says only the laws in the state of New Jersey or Delaware or whatever. Half these people don't even know where Delaware is at. you know, and to get to the court there and to sue somebody in the court there, because that's what you have to do, and you have to pay a lawyer there. You don't have that kind of money.
This
to do
sounds
that
like
kind of
Willy Wonka small print almost.
man, dude, I have a clause in all my contracts. It's clause 10, and it says, listen, man, if you don't like me or I don't like you, we don't have a contract anymore. It's a walk-away clause. It's like, my
How
contract
could you make
is
somebody stay with you?
right, it's a slave contract. There's no other sport, no other thing where they say, you know what? If you don't like me, well, fuck you. You still got to pay me, and I'm still responsible for your career and your life. I mean, you're responsible for his career. You're responsible for his family. What money you get him and what fights you get him, put him in a position to take care of his family for the rest of his life. That's a huge responsibility. And that's what people need to look at is if you don't take that seriously, you don't need to be licensed in these states. Dave McWater does not need to be licensed in these states. He doesn't give a fuck about a black man or a Mexican man or anybody whatsoever. Okay? Whatsoever. The language he uses to talk about these guys and that kind of stuff, he shouldn't be in the sport. You know, he shouldn't be. It's ridiculous.
I want my audience to understand this goes so much further than just the entertainment that we see at home. That these fighters that are going out there, that are dealing with this behind the scenes, and I think it's really important for more stories like this to come out. And I really want to thank you guys so much. Where do we go from here in 2022 with their careers? Do you think they're going to get some fights coming up? What is your plan right now moving forward as we get towards the end of the interview? What are we doing? What's the goal by the end of 2022 here?
The end goal is to get a world championship and move on. Once we get this guy out of our hair, you know, no one's suffering as far as after the fact, is, you know, because the guy is going after me, all because these guys wouldn't sign. You know, oddly enough, his contract, Charles' managerial contract is up in April, and in March we get a notice for arbitrary. You know what I mean? Because we did not re-sign with the guy.
He's just wanting a piece of that deal. He wants a piece of that deal. That's all these guys are in it for. They sign all these guys, and at the end of that 5 years or whatever, they're looking at a deal with Lou DiBella. They're looking at a deal with Al Heyman. They're looking at a deal with Pro-Bellum. They're looking for a deal with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom.
Pro-Bellum. Talk about Pro-Bellum for people who don't know what Pro-Bellum is, because that's a name that has been brought up all week. After the article came out from the UFC fighter shouting out, can you talk? What is Pro-Bellum?
Go ahead, you're up. Oh, so you go first, buddy. They're a global boxing and media company. They say that they are. What would you say? They say that they're the newest and best promoters in the business.
I can feel this energy, and I know my listeners can feel this energy too. It's walking a thin line, right?
Man, it's like they want to open up boxing to this new audience of people, and it's like their grassroots campaign, like bring together best fighters for fans around the world. I can't name anyone that they've got that I even know what their name is, you know, but I guess Nonito Donaire is one of their clients. Listen,
I went out to dinner after John Gotti the third's fight last year. His coach brought me out to dinner. I was doing work for a couple of the Gotti guys, helping them build their media careers and whatnot, and John Gotti III's coach brought me and my family out for dinner after the event at CES, and we were talking about the corruption and what would happen if that came towards them. Do you think that some fighters are treated better than others, and if that happened to like somebody like John Gotti III, do you think that would happen to him? Do you think he would be treated this way, or do you think that this is kind of a racial or love-fear kind of a thing?
Well, what you name someone with a background of having money. Most of this happens to guys that's underprivileged. It's just taken advantage of. It's a situation. That when these guys come in and they get next to the family and they find out the little dirty secrets in the family, and then guys like this manipulate their way to separate everybody, come in and create separatism, and then come in and take the prize. So it's a lot involved here. It's a
But do
lot of
you think he would be treated that way? And if he was,
no, again, he's from a little money. You know what I'm saying? And if it wasn't, it sounds
Well, I
like
know this. I know that John Gotti freaking turns down every fight that he gets unless it's a beneficial fight towards him. And several times he's like screwed me up because he's dropped fights that he was supposed to fight my guys at. So that's what I have to say about John Gotti III. He picks and chooses who he fights and who he wants to fight. So if he's that powerful, then he's powerful enough to where no one's going to mess with his
I'm
money.
saying if John was promised a certain amount of money, he would get it, right? But Isaiah wouldn't.
no, because he doesn't have any muscle behind him, and he's just a poor black kid from Cleveland who no one gives a fuck about.
Right.
Now,
and he's the main event of the show, by the way. Main event. One main event in Showtime, 20th anniversary show. Won that one.
Does it come down to race? Do you think it comes down to race?
Of course. Yes.
Do you think black boxers are black athletes are treated less fair than someone?
Well, we're going to say people of color, but is the situation?
I'm sorry.
No. When I say people of color, I'm just Mexicans, blacks, Puerto Ricans, everybody, people of color. It's the situation that they're in that's being taken advantage of. It's their mom could have died. Their mom could be sick. They don't have any money. They need to put her away.
They're sleeping in the gym.
They're sleeping in the gym, right? You know what I mean? It's situations. It's situations that come about that these people see and they jump on them, because what happens is, hey, I got the money. I can get you there. I can change your life. Just listen to whatever and trust whatever I tell you. And that's how it goes from there. You gotta understand that Charles signed with McWaters in 2015.
How old was he?
17 years old.
Still undefeated.
17. He signed with him at 17 years old. He hadn't been to the Olympics yet. Once he turned 18 years old, the day after his birthday, then he signed him. Then the contract was so-called legal. But, he was doing managerial things in 2015. So if we do the math, this is 2022. This is a 7-year fucking contract. A 7-year contract.
Which would be illegal, correct?
Of course. A 7-year.
Be illegal with him signing him as an amateur and signing him when he was 17 and giving vans and flying in places and do all that stuff. That's totally illegal. USA Boxing found out about that. They'd have a shit thing.
And we have him on tape admitting all of that. He used our nonprofit.
Wait, you have him on tape doing what?
We have him on tape saying that he gave a nonprofit profitable things for favors for Charles to sign with him,
which he did not follow through with.
Yeah. He leased the van for us. It cost $900 a month, and for 5 years, and I think it was 6 years. 5 years. It was 5 years, $900 a month, and he told us the van cost $100,000, but it really cost $60,000.
For the people listening to the audio, I mean, the faces that I've been making throughout this entire episode, you got to get to the YouTube channel and see this, because we get thousands and thousands of listeners on here. Like I keep saying, trying to get to the top 50 on iTunes. It's going to be a huge discussion. I've never had anybody open up this much about it, but yet everyone knows about it. But everyone is so quiet about it. Now, when it comes down to other managers, it seems like, what would you say, 60% of managers are like this, or do you think it's just a couple?
I would say 60 is being generous. There's a few of us guys out here that care. There's a few of us.
There's only a few guys at this level too. I mean,
That's
you
right.
don't have maybe. I mean, this is a very hard job. You maybe have 15 people in the whole country who do this job. And it's tough to get in with somebody like Oath. It's tough to get in with guys like Floyd Mayweather and those types of dudes. It's tough to get into these guys and get into their gyms and get their trust because they don't trust anybody.
That's right.
Because they're fucked over. They've been fucked over.
Oh, we're scarred. We'll never be the same again. We'll never trust a guy again, ever.
Now, do you think with Jake and everything, would you fight for him next, or have you been in talks with him?
Well, right now, this guy threatens everybody, so no one's will talk to us. Like everybody, if he think you like us, he'll send you a cease and desist letter.
People just buy this stuff too. I mean, I wish he'd send me one. I rip it up and throw it back to him. Yeah, it's just people buy into this. They're going to get sued and they're going to lose everything. It's this scared culture where people are just scared to stand up for themselves anymore, man. And you'll get people like Oath and myself. We're just like, we're tired of it, dude. We're not going to just let you run over us no more. We're going to stop that. And I deal with the BKFC guys, the UFC guys, Bellator, everybody. And everybody has their little quirks, everybody has their little things, but no one straight abuses fighters like boxing does. Boxing makes so much money. These shows we didn't even talk about the money they make off of advertising, the money they make off of sponsorships, the money, all that money right there that Showtime or whoever's putting on the fight that they make. And then there's the ticket gate also. The gate at Nebraska that he fought in made $212,000. So this is something we're not talking about too. He made 15 grand. The gate made 212. So it's just like, come on now. Where is the money going? It's only going to a select few people, and that's why no one talks. Because if you talk, you get X'd out of these organizations, and then your fighters never have an avenue to go to the top. And that's something that you don't want.
Even the WBC, one of the most well-known companies out there, promotions, they call them Weeby Crooks.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just it's absolutely crazy. So getting back to my last question.
Evo, before you go to the last question, let me put on something and see if I can get your face squinched up again. In June and July and August of 2021, Isaiah and Charles attempted to fire Dave McWater, sending the promoter and Dave McWaters an email telling him that he was fired and those guys do not want them to represent him. Do you know? He contacted the promoter and told the promoter, "I'll sue you if you get in my business," and they let him stay in.
Whoa. Say that one more time, because that makes no sense.
In June of 2021,
they wanted to leave him.
No, they did leave him.
They fired him.
Yes, they fired him. They wrote him and the promoter a letter saying that we're going to pay him, but we do not want him to represent us in any form or fashion. And he contacted the promoter and told him that he has to negotiate deals, and that's violates his contract, and they'll get sued if they side with me.
What? This is like kidnapping. This is kidnapping.
if the boxers side with,
here's how I see it. Here's how I see this. I see this as almost like elderly protective services needing to be stepped in, because it's almost like somebody taking care of an older person who needs help that can't do it on their own, and they're getting checks every month, and the person taking care of them is taking that check and giving that person who's actually getting that check nothing. I mean, this is illegal in every other form, but not here. Just make.
Let me say something right quick. Under the law, the Muhammad Ali Act, any promoter who knowingly fails to make a required contract filing with the State Athletic Commission or fails to make required financial disclosure to a fighter is guilty of a crime punishable by up to 1 year in prison and a $100,000 fine. The Justice Department is the one responsible for these prosecutions. Not one indictment has ever been brought against one promoter ever. And they do it every single show. I have never had a promoter come up to my fighter and show them the financials of the actual event, except for one time in Oklahoma, and that was the last Top Rank show I was at, where they actually showed and came and actually showed what each fighter made, and I was surprised that they did that. And I think that has something to do with the commissioner over there, tired of it, where he doesn't get these until afterwards. But they're supposed to know what they're making. So let's say Tecate sponsors this bout that you're in, and they pay $20,000 for this bout. Well, you're getting $4,000, and your opponent's getting $100,000 or whatever. They have to tell you that, and a lot of times they don't, because they bring in these people to make $4,000 or $5,000 to fight these guys, make $30,000, $40,000, and they bring them in to lose, and that's a crime. It's a crime not to tell people about this, and it's a crime not to give that contract over to the Athletic Commission, and allow them to actually look at these contracts before they actually have these fights. But it happens all the time.
Teddy Atlas said, and I'm quoting Teddy Atlas quote for quote, and he's referring to boxing here, "The whole thing is begging to be corrupt. Boxing is like building a city and houses and community on toxic ground. But it's not funny when a kid gets robbed after making just pennies." And that's a quote from Teddy Atlas, and that's some real shit right there.
Well, Evil, check this out. Now, I let you know that in 2015, Charles signed Dave signed Charles. Okay, 2015. So that brings us to 2022, right? He's trying to get another fucking year extension. He's trying to get a fucking.
But he's not giving him a fight though, and he's causing conflict.
Contract out of this, bro.
His job's not to get him a fight. The promoter's the one who gives him the fights. The manager's job is to take care of the sponsorships, take care of making sure he's got his hotels, making sure he's where he needs to be. He ain't doing that shit. How many sponsors has Isaiah Steen got? 0. How many Charles Conwell got? 0. That's unheard of in MMA. The guys are platinum out.
What happened the last time that you guys spoke to this man? What went down? When was the last time you guys left off with him?
Who? Me or who?
Both of you guys.
I spoke to him a month ago, and he talked shit about Otha the whole time, and blamed everything on Otha, and said that he's still in contract, and that Otha's going to be surprised because it's really him who's out, not it's really him who's out, not Dave. So,
Otha, what was the last thing that he said to you? And why?
He texted me from
the N-word.
Anonymous phone.
Did he?
Yeah. He got an app on his phone. Everybody got the app on the phone where you got a ghost number. He texted me. He texted me after a meeting. What I have to tell you this first.
Who's he? Say his name.
David McWaters. David McWaters was in a meeting with Pro-Bellum and was trying to convince Charles to sign with them.
Okay.
Charles told them, "No, I'm gonna just wait till this go out." Yeah, they did a media interview talking about Charles signed with them and everything. Charles ain't signed shit, and he did. Dave wanted him to sign this agreement. So like Reed was telling you, so he'll be in the next deal. So when he found out that Charles wasn't going to re-sign, he texted me after the meeting. He said, "You dumb fucking nigger."
Wow.
Nigger.
Dave McWater called you that.
Yeah. I got the texts. I got everything, man.
And you have proof of that.
I got every fucking thing this guy ever did, said, or whatever. We even got a voice recording.
I wonder if he knows what cancel culture is when you use words like that. I wonder if Dave McWater knows what cancel culture is. And I hope he knows what happens when somebody comes on a podcast like this and information is brought up like that. That this day and age, cancel culture, you don't do that. So if you have proof that he did that, there needs to be consequences. And isn't it funny that might be the straw that breaks the camel's back?
Oh, yeah. Oh, shit. Man, it's so much shit against him that we've endeavored in 5 years, and we got everything documented. I mean, we can't wait. Him trying to sue would be oasis in heaven for us, because here's the real reason behind that is you can't sue somebody who's broke, and the evidence we got is going to do nothing but backfire against him. We want him to bring this shit out. We want it. We got a hard on for him to bring this shit out.
It needs to be brought out. It needs to be brought up. He can try to sue me, so he can have my 3 rats and all and my pull-out couch. You know what I mean? I mean, come on. You can have my Nirvana shirt. Come on. But
hey, it's funny. Like, me and Reed, we're kind of close, and
but this just shows that he has no respect. Calling you the N-word.
He was trying to tell Reed a bunch of bullshit about me, like trying to twist the truth.
Leader.
Reed, what was he saying?
He said he's the leader of. He said he's the leader of a cult. That he's a cult leader. That he's got them
the Munchausen syndrome.
And I said, well, how come he hasn't signed with him? He's like, well, because he's got him in a cult and he has them believing this and believing that, and he just gets a simple case of Manchester or whatever the hell that
Munchausen syndrome.
Yeah, Munchausen disease, but it's all going to come out.
How do you respond to that?
I said, listen, I said, I talked to Otha. I called him with the thought of, I want to hear what this guy says about Otha, because I love Otha and I know who he is in his heart and I know what he's done, and I want this idiot to say something stupid on recording, and I want to get it. You know what I mean? That's and so that's what I got, and he is stupid enough to do that. And
he's robbing fighters. He's lying to fighters.
The money that he said that he gave Otha, the things he said about Otha were slanderous, untrue. You're talking about a dude who, he's loud and he's obnoxious, but wouldn't you be too? You're controlling fighters in a hood, and you're taking these guys who are just coming in and are nothing and have their hand out to world title champions, top 5 guys. And then you have guys like this trying to take it from him. I'd be loud too. I'd be want my respect too. And he's taking that too.
Reed that I've been trying to steal these guys for 2 years. I fucking brought them to him. How can I steal my own kids?
Yeah, he said something about his dad and about their dad, and just like it's just ridiculous stuff, just lies that I knew were lies. But I just listened. What I say, I just listened and act like I was. Okay, cool, whatever. I don't get involved in that. I play the game clean and, that kind of stuff, and just said that to him.
Reed asked him about the contract, right? Reed asked him about the contract. He said, well, the contract or something. And Dave goes, well, that can't be right because Otha can't read. So,
wow. Wow.
He said Otha can't read, so he's mistaken. So Reed comes in because all the documents that I have, because I'm working with Reed, Reed has. So Reed seen the documents already prior to the conversation, and told Dave, well, if he can't read, Dave, well, I read the same contract, and Steen and Conwell, it's a frivolous contract. They're out of their contract. And then
I
he
went to
started
the
backing
ABC
up.
and talked to the ABC about these contracts. These contracts are gone, are over with. So it doesn't matter if you can read or not. Your contracts they're not contracts.
This is going to be the scariest thing that has ever happened to this man when I release this podcast. Because I'm going to be sending this to my boys at Bloody Elbow. I'm going to be sending this to my boys at ESPN. I'm going to be sending this to my boys over at SureDog, Tapology. I'm going to be making clips. I'm going to be making sure that this and everything that you guys have said and have proof on with cancel culture right now, and especially with Black Lives Matter, this
man, Reed got every copy of everything.
This was the right show to come on and do this. This was,
Reed was the only one to step up out of all my friends that's in boxing. Reed was the only one to step up and say, "I'm not scared of this guy, man."
You can't be. You can't be.
Well, man, I'm dealing with top levels anyway. What are you going to do to me? You're going to knock me off? You're not going to knock me off, bro. What you're going to do is we're going to go to war. Everything's going to come out. I'm going to come out as who I am, and you're going to come out as who you are. And the fighter's going to look at me like, this dude right here gives a fuck, and I'm going to get your clients, and you're going to go back to tossing pizzas or whatever he was doing in New York. So, I want the truth to come out, because boxing needs to stop being played like this. It's become to where now you have to pay to get into boxing to get your first bouts. And then after you get those first couple bouts, you might fight somebody on a local card and get a couple thousand. By the time you're 10 or 15-0 and fighting somebody, you've got to have a promoter. And if you don't, then you're just fighting for your life. You're fighting huge fights that are, guys that you shouldn't be fighting. And, it's not fair. And it's time for it to be fair. It's time for people to enjoy this sport and for people to come out and really participate in this sport because they love it, because I know that these guys love this sport, and not be able to fight for a year and doing something that you put 10, 15 years into is soul crushing. It's soul crushing. You need to compete. That's why you do this. A man needs to compete, and
so
I want people to compete.
I want to sum a couple things up because there's a couple of notable boxing scandals that have been noted, but I want to include them in this podcast with everything that has been said. IBF president Robert Lee took bribes and sold his rankings. The four biggest governing bodies in boxing: WBC, WBA, WBO, IBF. There's so much corruption out there. Shane Mosley, EPO scandal versus Oscar De La Hoya. Even former mob boss Michael Franchise, which if you watch Goodfellas, they mention him, and he came out and he said boxing was big sport for the mafia. It was for the mafia. It was the mafia was most involved in this sport. And what Teddy Atlas had to say, what Mike Tyson had to say, what Paulie Malignaggi had to say. I used to love this sport, and now it's ripping people away, and it's destroying lives. And these fighters deserve to earn what they're working for. And I thank you guys so much for coming on the show and saying everything that you have said. Moving forward, where do you think this is going to end up by the end of the year? Do you think we're going to have some movement? Because I'm definitely going to push this as far as I can to help you guys. Because do you guys agree with Paulie Malignaggi when he says boxing is just full of shit?
Yep, I do believe that.
Do you believe in Mike Tyson saying it's the most corrupt sport in history?
I believe all that, but...
And do you believe it needs to change now?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I believe all that, but what I do believe also is I guess I'm a fool for hope. I think that it's going to change. I think rallying with you, me and Reed, and other people that want to get their story out. I think if we can get other people to get their story out and tell their business or their situation, I think we'll be in a whole better place.
I agree. With that being said, guys, I want to make sure that everyone tuning into this podcast follows you guys on social media. If you guys have any shout outs, anything that I missed at all, the floor is now all yours. Otha, I'll start with you for your social media. If you have any thanks, shout outs, sponsors, anything at all, the floor is now all yours.
I'm private. I really don't have social media. I want to give a shout out to Reed. You know, I want to give a shout out to him for being himself and, you know, not having any kind of prejudice, you know, at all. You know, it's a good, wholesome guy, you know, who's taking care of his business. I want to give a shout out to our team, Soul City Boxing. You know, Charles Conwell, Isaiah Steen, Jeremiah Lewis, Antoine Jones, and you know, just some of our pro boxers. Just want to get a shout out.
Where are you guys training? Are people allowed to go there? Do you guys give lessons? And if so, how can they?
We're at 801 Junction in Toledo, Ohio. People come from all over around the world to get sparring, to train. You know, it's really big. You know, having two Olympians come out of the gym back to back. You know, we had Charles Conwell 2016. Then we had my daughter O'Shea Jones 2021 Olympics.
Bronze medalist.
Which is a bronze. Which she was a bronze medalist. Yeah, I think we're doing it over there.
Soul City Boxing. You know what most people don't know is it's an anti-gang, anti-violence 501c organization.
That's huge.
So you guys, they go on donations. I know Oath is private, but you know, anything that you could pitch in, send out to these people, whatever. You can even call me. I'll make sure that, you know, the funds get over there. But they go on donations, and they don't ever turn anybody around. They're about they're turning everybody away. They're about getting the kids off the street and building them up, and building self-esteem, and getting them out of violence, getting them away from gangs and stuff like that too. So, you know, there is a mission behind this too that he does, that he doesn't like to talk about a lot. But he's a good dude when it comes to that, and it is a great gym, and it does have some great fighters in it. And there's a reason, because he's one of the best boxing trainers in the world, and people need to know that. You know, and I want to give a shout out to everybody out there who's training tonight at 8:30, where I'm at 9:30 at night, who does this because they love it and not because of the money. If you do it for that reason, you do things because you love it, you'll always succeed. I promise you that.
For Charles and Isaiah Steen and Charles Conwell, when do you think we can expect them to fight next?
Isaiah.
5th. And Reed got some things in store for Steen and some other fighters. You want to share?
Yeah, Steen. Hopefully, we'll start popping him off in May and get him a couple of fights, and just build him back up. Boxing is forgiving too, you know. And I'm sure that he'll fit in somewhere and find somewhere to fit in, because he's 16-0. He's talented. The kid's super talented. He's only 25. You know, he's the sky's the limit for him. You know, he's a good looking kid. He's got his head on straight. He's gonna bounce back fine. He'll be fine. He just needs to put this behind him as like a lesson that, you know, it is what it is. Good thing he wasn't 30 and this happened to him, you know. So
what do you guys think about me doing a small documentary based around all of this and getting some more interviews done? And talking with some more professionals from some of the bigger sites like Bloody Elbow, Sherdog.
They're all going to have a story. They're all going to have a story, and ESPN just did an article about it, about McWater, and about how he's got such guys as Teofimo Lopez, Charles Conwell, and Antonio Vargas. and kind of talk about him, and he acts like he just built the whole company up by himself.
Well, I'm gonna make a promise to you guys that I'm gonna be following everything that happens from this moment on, from this interview, moving forward. I'm gonna put everything I could into helping this situation, and I really hope by this time next year something gets situated, and people need to start facing consequences.
Yeah, I think so too, man. I think so too.
So,
we appreciate you very much, man, for giving us this platform, and we will. Anybody else that wants to get on board with us, man, just holler at me. I own All Star MMA. You can look me up online and just type in All Star MMA on anything. All the social media that I have is under All Star MMA, and then I have All Star Boxing that I own also. Just go online, allstarmmafirm.com. Shoot me a message or whatever, text, all that stuff, and get involved in this. Some people get involved in this. Boxers, come talk through me. Let me be your voice. Let me be your.
Last thing I got to ask you guys, for my MMA fans out there, if you could pick one fight for an MMA fan to watch to boxing, what's the number one fight you would have them watch to try to get back into boxing? What would you have them go search up and watch? What's a good fight for a new boxing fan?
Go ahead. You want to go first, Ota? Who do you got?
Man, I like Bones and Arisanto.
I knew you would say Bones. I'd like to see Francis Ngannou, who's like the UFC heavyweight champion. I'd like to see him
and Fury.
I'd like to see him and Deontay Wilder fight.
Yeah,
I'd like to see him and Wilder fight. I'd like to see a fight because the
MMA guys keep getting embarrassed. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
Not really. No, I wouldn't say that now because look, Evander Holyfield got starched in the first round. He's a little bit older, and then Anderson Silva, who's older, has been starching everybody. He starts Julio Cesar Chavez, and he just beat who did he just beat? Tito Ortiz. But he's beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who is a world title holder. Come on, his first match and fought him.
I mean, Chad Dawson, who's from my city here, he just had a fight with Vitor Belfort. They did JDS versus what's his name? Kubrat Pulev. That was his name. Over at a Triller.
Right.
Triad Combat 2, Chad Dawson, Vitor Belfort. I mean, there's a lot of guys switching over to boxing, which I find really interesting, because to me that's saying that boxing is paying more than MMA. And then there's this discussion.
It's a lot more than MMA.
This is just fucking crazy. So,
a lot more than MMA.
So I want to
get $500 your first 4 or 5 fights in MMA, $1,000 maybe at your 6th fight if you got a good promoter, and you don't make 5 figures until you're in the UFC or Bellator or PFL or something like that. If you win 4 fights in boxing, 4 or 5 fights, you can be an opponent for someone who's promoted for $5,000 or $6,000, and that's where the difference is in boxing. Now, as far as like these guys got names. If you got a name, you can come on and get $100,000 for a fight. Just because, of your name,
And that's the saddest part about all of this with Charles and Isaiah, because they're undefeated. So I really wish them the best moving forward. And thank you guys so much for speaking up about this. It really does take a lot to put your name out there, to come on a show like this, and to, call somebody out that needs to be called out. And with cancel culture going around right now and the things that you have told me on this show, I think we're going to accomplish something. I think something really good is going to come from this. So I hope so. I really thank you guys for that, and I will make sure that something does happen.
Oh, it's all good. I spoke my piece. Man, it's well, I did forget one person. Evil E, I want to give a shout out to you. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'll make sure to do my duty.
Keep your fucking head up, bro. Keep your head on straight, because you can do some big things, bro, for sure.
I appreciate it.
Big things. You know, if you're ever down in Arkansas or you come to Ohio, come in there and get your ass kicked at one of the gyms. You know?
Maybe I'll see you at a slap contest soon. We'll
I
see.
ain't man. I'll tell you what, bro. You know you will. I might come up to the next CES. I got guys who fight in CES, so I'll be looking for you up there the next time I was up there. With Pat and them guys.
That sounds good. All right, guys. It was nice talking to you, and we'll see what comes of this. All right?
All right. Peace and love.
All right. God bless. You know what it is. The latest episode of Pure Evil MMA. And remember, without evil, there's no purity. White knuckles till the end. Behave yourselves.
Fight for